final day of the training program that is being conducted on e-governance, ecopreneurship, and green IT in technical institutions from 16th to 20th January 2007. And today we are into the final day of the program, that is 20th January 2017. And today, for the first session of the day, we have with us Honorable Deepak Vasan sir, who is working as additional director with National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology, and based in presently deputed in Delhi. And first of all, I am thankful to Nilit that they have supported me during this program wholeheartedly with all kind of inputs that were required for this program. Then I thank Deepak sir for being with us for this session over here. Sir has a 27 plus years of experience in the domain of IT, and he has expertise in the domain of business process re-engineering while undertaking different projects at NILET. So I welcome you, sir, that you spared valuable time out of your schedule. And it was just a day before yesterday I made you a call, and yesterday you make all the necessary approvals done and are here with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for being with us. And now I request you to be with our participants. Thank
you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Deepak Vasan. I'm working with National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology and Autonomous Scientific Society of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. I thank Mr. Amardev for inviting me to this discussion on process re-engineering, which has been the forte all throughout. Before jumping into the subject matter, I would try to give you some background about the e-governance projects, what was the need, how they were built, and how they were evolved. When we talk of e-governance, when all the government bodies initially were government bodies, departments, universities, schools, boards, education institutes, when they were built, various frameworks, rules, regulations were also framed. And each department, each government department, be it a institute, university, it had to work within the framework or the rules that were defined to execute their tasks. Over a period of time when computers came into being, these systems were replaced by computer-based IT solutions. Still, the modus operandi remained the same. It was only the mode that was changed. When we changed the mode, so IT is primarily the backbone on which the services are being provided. All these government institutes, departments, they are actually the service providers. In the case of schools, universities, boards, we have students who are the beneficiaries. And if it is a government department, then probably the citizen is the beneficiary. So it is always a two-way thing, that is a service provider providing the services to the citizen. If it's an institute, a school, or a college, it is providing services to the beneficiary. E-governance was actually introduced by Government of India in 2005-2006, wherein IT was actually just the mode. And that is probably the reason why e-governance, E is small, and primarily the subject matter is governance. So instead of carrying out the activities through the electronic mode, the emphasis was also upon the services, how the services could be improved, how the beneficiary, how these services could become citizen-centric or student-centric in the case of universities and boards. So IT, if I would say, is the backbone of e-governance. Process re-engineering is actually the heart and soul of e-governance, because all those processes which are framed and defined as per the working of the particular department, they also probably need certain re-engineering. They also probably need certain redefining. They have to be simplified in the sense that they become more transparent. Services are properly provided to the beneficiary in a normal, acceptable time frame. So that is why process re-engineering is so important. Whatever we do in an office or an institute is primarily related to capturing of information. Slides presented. Whatever working is done in any office or an institute, it captures information, it processes that information, produces certain documents, transform information, transfer documents, store documents and information, and ultimately this information is retrieved. That is all what happens in any office or an institute or a government organization. Understanding business processes. Every government service is supported by a set of business processes which provides approach and guidance to deliver the service. Each department has to provide a particular service to the beneficiary. So there are certain processes which have been defined, which are called business processes to deliver that particular service. So business system is a collection of processes that take one or more inputs and create the output that is of value to all stakeholders. So these processes are actually the key to satisfying customers and all stakeholders. In the case of universities, schools, boards, primarily the major beneficiary is the student. So the processes have to be so defined that the student, the major beneficiary, gets proper service. So business processes also move information or materials across several units and functions to accomplish a specific end result. But what is a process? A business process and the government process. Process is a very generic definition, which is a group of tasks and activities that are carried out to reach a desired outcome. So these are a set of events, tasks which have to be performed. Business process would be any set of activities performed by a business, by a particular business, be it a industry, a market, or a school, or a hospital. It would always be initiated by an event. It would transform information, materials, or business commitments, and would produce the desired output. When we talk of government processes, any set of activities performed by a government that is initiated by an event, that is a service request or an event trigger, it transforms information, produces an output, which is delivery of service to the citizen or the business of government. An example to better understand business processes. All of us know where various G2G, G2S, G2C services. I'm taking one example of government to citizen service because e-governance is primarily citizen-centric. So when we talk of providing a passport to a citizen, all the processes would be all activities that are carried out by the citizen, government, and agencies, right from the initiating point. I think all of you would actually agree with this, that the initiation point for this activity would be the passport application form that has to be filled in by the citizen. And ultimately the end is this activity is end of this activity is delivery of the passport to the citizen or a communication of rejection. In this process, it's one bundle of process which is clubbed. We have various sub processes, and the process can be subdivided into passport application and collection. When we say passport application, it is document verification, fees collection. Once the documents are verified and the fee is collected, the passport has to be processed. The department has to undertake various activities to verify the documents submitted by the applicant, process the passport, and finally deliver that passport to the citizen. Activity is various steps that are to be carried out in order to accomplish a process, like receipt of fee receipt. It can be acknowledgement of application receipt, etc. When we talk in terms of a university academic body, then it is institute to student. This is another example to understand the process, which I've taken an example of providing admission to a student. Process is all activities that are carried out by the student, institute, and other related agencies, right from the receipt of admission form to delivery of enrollment details or the communication of rejection. Admission form collection is one sub process wherein verification, fees, and whatnot, eligibility is checked. Admission processing, wherein we do check the availability of seats in the stream that has been asked for. And finally, the delivery of enrollment details. These are just two examples that I have taken to make you understand what a process is, what a business process is, or what a government process is. But do we really feel that all government or institute processes are efficient? Are we agreeing it is yes or a no? Let's see certain inputs. Processes have been designed in accordance with the legislation governing the particular domain. All the rules or regulations that were defined, all the processes are designed based on those rules and regulations. And some of these legislations may be old and antiquated. I mean, they can be as old as framed in 1950s or 60s. Basis of the legal system was to put controls and not better service delivery. At no point of time when these rules or legislations or regulations were framed to carry out a particular activity, the emphasis was on putting controls, seeing that everything is done in a very fair manner, but nobody was actually concerned about the service delivery, whether the services were being delivered, provided at the requisite time or not. All these acts, legislations are department centric. They are not citizen centric, or in our scenario, student centric. See, for any government to work, they have various departments. For any institute or an organization or academia to work, we have various sets of bodies like universities, boards, colleges. But ultimately, these are all the service providers. All these government offices, all these institutes, all these academic institutes, they are the service providers. Ultimately, what matters most is the delivery part, the recipient, the beneficiary, who had always taken a backseat. That was the reason why e-governance was coined, NEGP was framed, and you all are aware that government had identified 27, which was added, 4 more projects were added, 31 mission mode projects that were undertaken by Government of India to provide better services to the citizen. So this is citizen centric. So move is towards citizen centric. When we talk of e-governance in higher education, it is student centric. All the rules that were framed, they were complex and tedious. And probably millions of forms are always asked from the citizen or the student to fill up. This is again talking about the problems which are legacy problems, legislative intent or process problems, which is legislation was well intentioned and relevant at the time it was drafted. So maybe this has lost its value over a period of time. They were well intentioned when they were framed. These rules and regulations, they are focused more on control and ensuring compliance rather than the service delivery. And down the line, over a period of time, the rules are added along the way, making the legal framework complex and tedious. So this is legislative intent process problems. Then there is a problem with the delivery channels also. How this service is being delivered. Too much information is asked for at the beginning. Burden of proof is always thrown on the student or the citizen or the student. This is very important. As and when you have to avail a government service or a student has to avail an institute service, he has to show various proofs. He has to prove his identity. He has to prove his eligibility. He has to prove his educational qualifications. So that burden of proof is always thrown onto the citizen or the student. Complexity of rules and regulations. And the irony is that as and when there is money involved, financial angle is involved, it becomes even more complex. There is a heavy reliance on manual systems, and there is no concept of quality assurance. Various other problems are jurisdiction, too many narrow domestic walls, everything is fitted into a particular jurisdiction only. I mean, even a student, if he is applying for a course outside his state of domicile, probably is getting lesser benefits. Timings are restricted, disparate and suboptimal delivery networks, no choice of delivery channels, there is no choice whatsoever. There is only one mode of getting the service. Delivery channels would be, I would take up these at a later stage. When we have, maybe when we talk of banking, there are n number of delivery channels. Process and delivery channel often combined, resulting in delay and malpractice. When we talk of delivery problems as such per se, there is a mindset and attitudinal problems, because this is person-centric. A person who's delivering this service, it is his mindset, it is his attitude. When we go to a bank, it depends how the mood of the person is. If he's cordial, you would be getting a better service. So that is mindset and attitudinal problems. There can be a situation when these delivery agents are unsuitable. Lack of empowerment of front-end people. The person who's sitting at the front desk giving you the service, maybe he's not empowered to do anything. He has to take approvals time and again to deliver this service. Lack of dedicated delivery teams. The team, the front end, which is delivering this service, maybe they are not dedicated. Delivery is handled on a part-time basis. Lack of service levels or measurement systems. So these are all legacy problems which are marring the overall system in any government institute or a body. Then there can be certain constraints when these frames or rules or regulations or the processes were defined. They were designed, but probably they are not applicable now. Many processes were designed with manual, non-ICT constraints in mind. Whenever a process was defined, admission process was defined, or service from any government department process was defined, manual constraints were put. Many of these constraints may not be applicable anymore. When we have advancements in IT, a very classic example of this is, if all of you must have heard about DigiLockers. Now you don't have to prove your identity. You can put your certificates online and anybody can have an access to those. So all the process thrust is basically processes that were defined. They were defined with compliance and control in mind and not enhanced service delivery. I mean, last 10 minutes of my discussion have always been emphasizing upon one thing, that is whatever processes are being followed, we are more keen in complying with those processes, keeping control in mind rather than providing better services. So re-engineering the process through GPR, GPR is government process re-engineering, allows for process redesign to leverage the benefits of ICT rather than just replicating existing processes. This is very important. This last tagline is important. There is nothing more inefficient than to do efficiently that which should not be done at all. When I say that I am doing a particular task very efficiently, when there is no utility or use of doing that particular task, that is the most inefficient thing to do. Which should not have been done at all, I'm doing it very efficiently, is the most inefficient thing. I'll be introducing the concept of service quality. When we say a service is to be delivered, it has to be a quality service. When it has to be a quality service, what all we expect in that? When a university issues me a certificate, we check for whether the information is correct or not. When I say information, name and photo is correct, personal information is correct, certificate is stamped, signed, and is valid or not, whether it is torn or it's not damaged. So this is what we say check for when we see the quality. Similarly, in the case of passport, when we receive the passport, we check whether the information is correct or not, it has missing pages or not, numbers are proper or not. But do we really agree that all this information, there are no pages torn, information is up to the mark, but still can I say that we have met with the service quality parameters if everything above is correct? When I say the certificate I received is correct, it is valid, it is stamped, am I satisfied? No, I don't think so. Service quality is something more to this. So the answer is no. If it is no, then what else is important to you as a receiver of the service? When we talk of passport issuance, even if the passport received is correct, maybe citizen had to wait for hours in the queue. Maybe he receives the passport 6 weeks after it was dispatched. Maybe his police verification is delayed. Citizen has to come multiple times to log in application. Citizen needs to use an agent to get hassle-free service. We Indians are always tend to go for shortcuts, and as and when we say there is some complexity in the process, we go in for the services of agents. Citizen is asked to pay extra money to get it processed fast. Citizen faces rude behavior by the security guards or the counter staff. Citizen does not get correct information from helpline or the inquiry counters. I mean, even today, when you talk of any customer care number, you would never get the right information. Counter accepts incomplete form and rejects it later. At the receipt, it is accepted. You go back after a week or 10 days, when you come back, then you said, no, your form is rejected. Counter does not accept documents defined in the requirement checklist. Passport is sent to a wrong address or a person. The first 3 points which are discussed, they are all time related. They're all time related. Next 3 points discussed are all cost related. Last 5 points, they are customer experience. So when I talk of delivery of service, time, cost, customer experience, everything becomes very important. So this is actually what service quality is. So service quality comprises of the physical product, your passport or a certificate, the time taken to deliver it, the cost of getting that service, and his overall customer experience. This is what is called service quality. And when I say service quality, this is the keyword in any e-governance project. It is just not IT enablement. So key attributes of service quality are time taken for completion of service, taken for delivery of service. The first is taken for completion of service by the citizen or the business. This means the beneficiary. Taken for delivery of service by the government is the service provider. Cost incurred in receiving the service by the citizen, incurred by the government in delivery of service, both the costs. Complexity, number of forms to be filled, amount of information to be provided, number of offices to be approached. These are all by the citizen or the business. Number of employees, number of approvals, number of verifications, validations to be performed by the government. They are by the service provider. Transparency, knowledge on process for delivery of service, delivery timelines, status of service request to citizen and business, and the citizen experience. So these are the key attributes of service quality. Transparency is also very important. Lack of knowledge would always add complexities. And that is where the service provider, the people who are the service providers, would play and act fishy with the beneficiaries. And finally, the convenience. आसान भी होना चाहिए. Ease of access to service, quality of facilities used for delivering service to the citizen, quality of facilities and tools provided for government employees for delivering the services to citizen business. It has to be both ways. It has to be for both the service provider as well as the beneficiary. Ease has to be there. I think with this background, we would come to what process re-engineering is. So Just IT enablement is not enough, because IT or computerization or electronic mode is just a mode. It's just a mode. But ultimately, it is important the processes have to be redefined, redesigned, re-engineered so that our service quality parameters are met. Right kind of services are being provided to the citizens or the students. That is what process re-engineering is. And for this very reason, processes are being re-engineered. There are various success stories of e-governance projects, which we would discuss at a later stage. And each one of us would actually agree that during our lifetime, the scenario has changed a lot. Coming back to the discussion of what is GPR, government process re-engineering, it is fundamental rethinking and radical redesign of government processes to achieve dramatic improvements in critical contemporary measures of performance, such as cost, quality, service, and speed. So everything makes a difference. The quality, service, cost, and the speed. Why organizations do GPR or BPR? To address the specific concerns of the stakeholders. When I say stakeholders, they are from both the parts. They can either be the beneficiaries or they can be the service providers. So all the specific concerns of the stakeholders, they have to be addressed. To address the challenges and issues in the services and service delivery, to improve the quality of service, to adopt best practices from similar environments, to address the changing needs of the customers and the government. These are the reasons why organizations have to do GPR or BPR. To summarize, a GPR is undertaken to address problems or needs of the organization or its customers with an objective to improve the overall quality of the services. When we say it is to address problems, so there have to be certain need, there have to be certain problems. In order to identify problems, we would see what are the symptoms of poor governance. They can be identified by error or mystification about procedures. When the procedures are not clear, they are complex, they are not transparent. So you always have a mystification about them. You are unaware, ignorant. So any government or a department or an organization or an institute, if there is, when the procedures are not clear, there are long queues at the delivery points. You have to undertake multiple visits to government offices. Outcome is suspense. You're not actually sure whether you would actually provide, by providing every damn input or information to the department, whether you would actually get that service or not. That is suspense. You have gatekeepers at every turn. I mean, they really harass you like anything. Poor quality of service. Service is a mercy, not a right. Too many intermediaries, shortcuts, extensive information exchange and data redundancy, huge inventory, too many controls, checks. They all add to complexity. And if such is the situation, that means it is poor governance. Need for GPR in e-governance. IT enablement without GPR. IT enablement without GPR provides results to the stakeholders, but may not address all the attributes of service quality. I mean, this is a very classic thing. Like at the onset, we had those rules and regulations which were being followed manually. All the systems were manual, which were in place in all government departments, institutes, everywhere. Then they were replaced by computer-based systems. Computerization came into being. All those processes which were manual, they were translated or transformed into computers. But still no emphasis was given on the service quality. IT enablement would only provide the mode. It is just a way of providing a service. Whereas whether that service is a quality service or not, it is being received at the right time or not, that would be impacted by the processes through which this information is transformed and the service is provided. So these processes have to be changed. These processes have to be redefined. When we talk of e-governance, two very good and classic examples come into the mind. One is railways, Indian Railways. All of us have traveled by Indian Railways. The sea change in the working of railways is visible everywhere. When we say, let's say 20, 25 years back, when the tickets were to be booked, it was altogether a manual process. Then there were so many issues getting the tickets, so many agents were involved. Then once computerization took over, tickets were given at the window, but we had that pre-printed stationery. So only a valid ticket on that pre-printed stationery was acceptable. Over a period of time, processes were re-engineered. Now that pre-printed stationery has taken a back seat, and even a plain piece of A4 paper, copier paper, you can take a printout and you can travel. And these are days you don't even have to carry that paper. You can show your SMS and that is the end of it. You can travel. And the beauty is, still by providing such good service to the recipient, all the rules, processes are followed. It is verified that only an authorized person in whose name the ticket has been booked, he actually travels. Nobody else can travel. So this is a beauty of e-governance. So IT enablement of an inefficient business process can only lead to inefficient IT-enabled processes, delivering the same results with marginal improvement. GPR may support organizations in a dramatic improvement of performance and application of IT or re-engineered processes will yield better results for stakeholders. So the graph also shows when we plot performance versus time, benefits through typical quality initiatives, they would be gradual. So this straight line, this is gradual. But when we say through a BPR, it is dramatic. It is exponential. Now, how to undertake this GPR? We've said that if IT is, or the electronic mode is the backbone, GPR is the heart and soul of any e-governance project. So how to undertake GPR? How to undertake process re-engineering? The first and the foremost step in carrying out process re-engineering is problem identification and definition. We need to identify the problem. We need to define that problem. Analysis of citizen grievances and complaint, and proactive voice of customer surveys. This is something over and above traditional studies that were undertaken while computerization was happening. When we do a software development life cycle, we do the same. Problem is identified, it is defined. System analysis and design में पहली चीज यही होती है. But here when we are doing the GPR, it is important that the recipient of the service, that means the customer, what are his expectations? They also need to be addressed and analyzed. So understanding what is happening, understanding the existing system, in addition to that, we have to analyze citizens' grievances and complaints through proactive voice of customer surveys. Work data has to be taken, VOC data. We have to carry out surveys. We have to ask the recipients what all is expected. Analysis of the issues raised, identification of problem and defining unambiguous problem statements. So we need to identify what actually is the problem. We need to define unambiguous problem statement, clearly define what is the problem and how that needs to be addressed. So this is the first stage of process re-engineering, which is problem identification and definition. Once this is done, we have to define vision and objectives of GPR. Analyze services portfolio and undertake service prioritization exercise. You have to prioritize various services. Define vision for GPR from problems identified, service priority. Define measurable objectives for the GPR exercise. Whenever we talk about quality, quality has to be measurable. We have to have certain SLAs defined. Once the vision and objective of GPR are done, the process study and documentation is taken up. When we say process study, this is study of the existing system. When we say existing system in the terms of e-governance, this is called as-is processes. So we have to study the process flow, who are the actors, what are the policies, what are the process stages. When we are to give a service, we have to perform a service. What are the flows? Who all are the stakeholders who are called actors here? What are the policies or the legal frameworks? And what are the process stages through which this activity goes through? Next step is documenting as-is processes and creating process maps. As-is processes are the existing processes, what are happening right now. So they have to be documented. Recording time and other data elements for each process step. For every process step in the as-is map, what is the time being taken and what are the inputs or outputs of that process? They are the data elements. Once this is captured, we need to validate the process documentation from the department, that whatever we have understood, whether that is correct or not. So this is who's going to do all this? The person who's doing the GPR, the person or the team who's going process re-engineering, they have to collect documents, see what all processes are happening in the present system and the as-is system, see what are the times that are being elapsed, what are the data elements, and once this is done, they have to get this validated from the concerned department. If I talk of a technical institute, the administration has to verify and validate that whatever I have understood and documented, that is correct. Once this validation of process documentation is done by the concerned department, the next stage is identify and classify the PIEs. PIEs are problems, issues, and expectations for the process. We know what the process is. We know how much time is taken. We know what are the inputs and what are the outputs of the process. But we need to identify and address the problems, their issues, and the expectations. Expectations would always be from the beneficiary side. which we have already gathered to this customer surveys, voice of customer surveys. These are the expectations. Once process is studied and is documented, next stage is process analysis. So I would say these are the different stages of process re-engineering. The first stage was problem identification and definition, define vision and objectives for GPR, process study and documentation, process analysis. When we say analysis, root cause analysis of process issues and identification of root causes. What were the issues? What were the problems? We need to identify the causes of those problems or the issues. Analyzing process efficiency, value adding and non-value adding steps. We have to see there would always be n number of process steps that would be carried out in a process. What are the value adding processes? What are the non-value adding processes? Analyzing process complexity. What are the data entry points, hands-off points, delivery points, etc. Definition of key metrics and arriving at baseline indicators. We have to define, when I say quality, it has to be measurable. So when we say measurable, there have to be certain metrics assigned to that. TAT, I suppose everybody knows what TAT stands for. This is turnaround time. Once the request is received, how much overall time is taken to deliver that service? That is the turnaround time. What is the acceptable error rate? So all these are the key metrics that need to be defined when we are doing the process analysis. Once the analysis is done, process re-engineering and defining to-be processes. If I talk of computerization, simple system analysis and design, we start with the existing system and propose a new system. So as is in the e-governance, in the process re-engineering mode is the current system, to be, what is expected, what would be the solution, what is the proposed system, that is to be. So process re-engineering and defining to be processes. Elimination or automation of non-value adding redundant activities. We've done the process analysis. We, at the earlier stage, we know what are value adding, what are redundant processes or activities. So here we would take away all those redundant activities or non-value adding activities. Identification of solutions. This is a re-engineered process. Evaluation and selection of best solutions. Definition of to-be processes based on the evaluation. We would propose probably, let's say, 2, 3, 4 solutions to this. We would evaluate and select the best based on the CBA, the cost benefit analysis. Once the candidate system is selected, once the to-be process is selected, based on this evaluation, it would be defined, firmed, freezed. Finalization of to-be processes with the department. So this would be finalized with the end user. Setting up of target KPIs. KPIs are key performance indicators. Process implementation, IT enablement and validation. That is the last stage of process re-engineering, wherein implementation takes place. Implementation of re-engineered processes, implementation of IT system to handle re-engineered process flow, putting in place mechanisms to monitor KPIs and continuous improvement, change management, legal frameworks, etc. So these are the different stages of process re-engineering. Started with problem identification and definition, vision and objective of process re-engineering, study of the existing system, study of the existing processes, doing the analysis of those processes, identifying the problem areas or the redundant processes, defining the key metrics, doing process re-engineering, defining and selecting the new system, finally the implementation. We would discuss certain success stories in GPR. One which I touched was Indian Railways. Fundamental rethinking that has happened. Do we really need to be physically present at the counter to get a ticket? Do we really need to submit the application form? Do we really need to have the ticket on a pre-printed railway stationery? Can the ticket information be made more easily available to the passenger? You automatically get a SMS that costs you nothing. So this is fundamental rethinking. Nobody ever even thought of that this can also happen. It's radical redesign. You can book tickets online. There is no time frame. There is no time constraint that they can be booked only from 9 to 5 in the evening or daytime. They can be booked anywhere, anytime. You can make the payments through credit cards, debit cards, online, whatnot. You can print your tickets yourself. You can send an SMS to find out the status of booking. So once this process re-engineering happened, radically the system was changed, processes were re-engineered with all foolproof methods and measures. I would not say that anybody could actually play with the system and get a wrong service. And finally, with the processes being re-engineered, we could achieve dramatic improvements. There is no hassle of queuing up. There is no hassle of traveling to the booking counter. Convenience of booking tickets anytime, anywhere. Freedom from travel agents. Otherwise, they always used to fleece people. Government savings on manpower and stationery. Another area which actually has done wonders is banking. I mean, all of us, people of my age, when we started using banks, we always had to walk down to the bank, fill up that withdrawal form, and take the money from the teller. N number of times he would say, the person is not there. I have to check out the ledger, your signatures, whatnot. If they are not matching, I'm unable to dispense cash to you. Banking, as a matter of fact, has undergone a sea change. I would try to elaborate banking. It was altogether manual at the first instance. Then there were computerized solutions to banks, and they were also standalone systems. In banking terminology, they were called TBAs, total bank automation, total branch automation, as a matter of fact. The working of a branch was automated. Then over a period of time, AWB came into being, anywhere banking. So branches of a particular bank within the city, they were connected. So from a decentralized mode, these different 4, 5, 6 branches in a particular city, they were connected, and we said that it was anywhere banking. Then over a period of time, core banking, CBS solutions came into picture, wherein a central repository of data is maintained and the services are provided to all the users 24/7. Fundamental rethinking. Do we really need to be physically present at the branch or the counter? Do we really need to submit the application form at the counter? Can we do away with signature verification at the counter? Automatically, a small window appears on the screen wherein the signatures are matched and the cash is disbursed. And as a matter of fact, you don't even have to go to the bank to do your normal banking app services. You have ATMs wherein you can withdraw cash anywhere, anytime. You can do transfer of funds online. You don't even have to go to the bank. So what redesign happened? Issues demand drafts online, transfer funds electronically from your own account, verification through user IDs and passwords, request the bank to courier the DD directly to the beneficiary. Now you just send one SMS or raise one service request that your checkbook is complete and you want to get a new checkbook. You just send a request and automatically the checkbook is received by the recipient in 5, 6, 7 days time. So what improvements happened? There was no hassle of queuing up, no hassle of traveling to the bank branch, convenience of issue of DD anytime, anywhere, freedom of Babu's, government savings on manpower. One more central government project that has actually, there are 2, 3 actually, as a matter of fact, passports, they have gone a sea change. You can very well get your passports issued from the passport offices. You have those passport seva kendras. You can fill up your application form online, book your appointment, schedule your appointment as per your convenience online, and then go to the seva kendra and get the service within 2-3 hours. And same is true for income tax department. You can very well off your own fill up your income tax returns, get those uploaded, and your job is done. When we talked of approach to GPR, there was this concept of as-is processes, present processes. I would touch something about how to understand the as-is process, the current process. When we do the as-is process study, we need to check what are the inputs. What is the input? Who supplies this input? How are the inputs provided? What are the interdependencies with other departments? What forms are filled and why they are filled? These are all inputs. Outputs, what is the output? When is the output generated? When is the time frame? What triggers the output? Who uses the output? What metrics do we use to measure the outcomes? Metrics are important. Always we talk of metrics when we talk of software, the quality. If we define certain metrics, we have to have measures to know what actually is the score. So what is their measure? How do we measure the metrics? How do we measure the quality? There have to be regulatory controls. What are the governing guidance, regulations, laws, budgets, and why? We have to see who are the people involved in this process. What is the activity performed by each person? What are the systems of the technology that are being presently used? So this is, through these things, we are able to understand what is happening in the current system, as-is system. Once we have gathered information on these subjects, we have to get this validated. Who would validate this? This would be validated by the department, the concerned department. So you need to ensure that your understanding of the as-is process is complete and correct. So you would start with shared document share documented as is process with the stakeholders. Stakeholders evaluate the understanding. They identify the gaps in understanding, if there are any gaps. They would discuss those gaps, and then they would be plugged up. Whosoever has undertaken this as a study, he would plug those gaps and come out with the revised version of the document. Identify the problems, issues, and expectations with the process. This was the current system. This is identification of the problems, identification of the issues, and what are the expectations. Problems, non-conformance to the defined processes and procedures due to skill gaps, lack of common understanding, resource constraints. These are the problems. Issues, systematic gaps where processes and procedures are not defined or ill-defined. Expectations that process owners, users, and other stakeholders have from world-class best practices. Across the world, the similar kind of services are being provided, and what are the deliverables through those service providers? Everybody would expect that I should always also get the best. So service delivery within minutes, self-service or online services. These are the expectations. I would expect that everything is available to me online. By the click of a button, it is available. When we try to identify a poor process, it would always be having certain indicators. Straight away, we would get to know that this is a poor process, a ill-defined process. Indicators of a poor process are too much movement, too much re-entry and or copying, standard formats not easily available, process too much disintegrated, process needs many manual inputs requiring references from other documents. Customers need to provide same information and or data multiple times. Activities, information, data that does not serve any purpose and can be eliminated. So any activity or the information which is not serving any purpose, that can be eliminated. Activities, information, data, documents that can be integrated, put together. Activities or the processes that can be simplified. Activities, process information, data that can be automated. What can be automated? Like if we need to receive an application, we can get this automated through either an online process, or we can ask for, let's say, a OMR based application form. So there are a number of ways of getting this automated. What is the best suited thing for a particular process? Process where three major benefits of IT, that is independence from place, time, and person, are not present and can be utilized. So these three benefits of information technology, that is place, time, and person, they can be best put to use when we are redefining or redoing a process. If the process is a multiple window process, it is a poor process. In any given poor process, there are various verbs which have no business value. Copying, collating, counting, preparing, searching, accumulating, revising, editing, checking, approving, storing, filling, whatnot. These are all, they have no value. They have no impact on the process. Capturing the voice of customer allows us to align our work and processes to customer needs. when we were doing computerization, the basic computerization, voice of customer was not even taken into account. We were just studying the current system, coming out with the proposed new solution, which was automated, which was computerized. But in order to provide quality service in time with lesser cost, customer's voice has to be heard and listened. And accordingly, the solution has to be designed and provided in such a way that the customer is satisfied. So capturing voice of customer, it allows us to align our work and processes to customer needs. We can incorporate customer information into strategic decisions. What customers need exists that we are not currently meeting. What service customers feel are unnecessary. How does our service compare to other state governments? हम जो सर्विस दे रहे हैं बाकी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स में क्या हो रहा है, वहां सर्विस कैसे दी जा रही है? इज इट बेटर ऑफ और इज इट वर्स ऑफ? हाउ कैन वी फर्दर improve our service delivery? What are the current world-class levels of performance? This is important, and that is the reason why people undertake so much study tours on foreign lands to see what is happening worldwide. We can incorporate the findings into product, process, service design. All these findings, all these studies, they can be incorporated into our process or the service delivery design, what we are going to do. So this voice of customer data can also be used to drive process improvements. There's certain process re-engineering principles that need to be followed. Redesigning the existing processes, elimination of non-valued added activities. Jitni bhi non-value activities hai, they have to be eliminated. Organize the process around the outcomes. Outcome is important, not the process itself or the rules and regulations. They are important. Important is the outcome. So we have to redesign the process in such a way that it is outcome centric. Building quality in the source. So these are process re-engineering principles. One is redesigning existing processes, reworking the way a process is executed. We need to rework how a process is being executed. Process tasks and steps may remain largely the same, but how and where the process is executed may be changed. We can at least change that. If a process is mandatory, it has to be done, like a student has to apply, maybe it should not walk down to the university or the institute to take admission. He can fill the form online. Replacing processes completely, removing the process. You can even outsource the process. Like when we do the result evaluation, maybe the scanning part is outsourced. The university or the board can do the evaluation part, but the scanning part can be outsourced. We can automate the process. So there are n number of ways. Process implementation and validation, implementation of re-engineered processes, implementation of IT system to handle re-engineered process flow. Once the new system has taken over, it has to be implemented. It has to be IT enabled. Once the system is implemented, we further have to put in place all the mechanisms to monitor KPIs, the key performance indicators. And this has to be a continuous improvement. As a matter of fact, when we talk of TQM, total quality movement, it is not continuous, it is continual improvement. There is always a scope of improvement. Like we took that example of railways. From that pre-printed stationery, that was first stage of probably providing services. Then we did away with that pre-printed stationery. Ticket was being printed on the plain piece of paper. Now there is no need of printing, taking the you can just show the SMS. So you need to continuously bring improvements in the system. Finally, change management and legal framework changes, etc., they also have to be managed. How the change is being managed. This diagram depicts from a as is to a to be model. The current system, which was as is, the changes can be in terms of technology, physical changes, infrastructure, business processes change, re-engineering and management structure, they change, employees' preparedness and acceptance to change. So this all comes under change management. From this as is to be, we have to manage each of these, that is technology, infrastructure, management structure, employees' preparedness, and their acceptance to change. And when we implement and manage change, it starts with a very fundamental step, that is assess department's readiness for change. From bottom to top, identify, empower, and train change agents, finalize goals and timelines, communicate this change and need for change, identify new roles and responsibilities, train employees and equip them to adopt change, implement the change, monitor and evaluate the change. Once the change is implemented, it has to be monitored, it has to be evaluated. Identify success patterns. What are the success patterns? Align reward and recognition, and finally replicate the success stories. So how would we ensure the success of a GPR? How would we say that a process re-engineering that has been undertaken and has been implemented, it is successful? The first and foremost thing for ensuring the success of GPR is commitment from the top management and acceptance of responsibility. The top management of this department or the institute has to have total commitment that this change is necessary and there is certain responsibility attached to us. We have to provide better services to the citizens or the students. So there has to be that commitment. Setting expectations that are realistic and not over ambitious. Voice of customer should be heard of. We should try to meet up all the expectations, but they should be built over a period of time. Setting expectations that are realistic. Realistic goals should be achieved and then they should be built and evolved over a period of time. Requirements of target groups are concerned. When you try to address a particular target group, see what are their requirements, see what are their expectations, meet up those requirements, give solutions, better services to this target group, and then build further. Change your target audience. So it should be built over a period of time, step by step. Business case analysis is completed. This is important. Agar case analysis complete nahi hai, to you would not be able to give a better solution. Legal issues are identified and addressed. You don't have to carry out a change just for the sake of getting that change, probably for the sake of giving better quality or service delivery. Improving delivery of service is okay, but you actually have to see all your legal issues are identified and addressed. You cannot do away with the systems. You cannot find a shortcut to the system as such. Focus on developing long-term solutions. Remember, business process re-engineering is not solely technology driven. It is just not technology driven. Technology is just a mode. We are implementing technology. We are implementing business process re-engineering through technology. Prior experience in re-engineering efforts, this is important. We need to do the case studies. We need to study what is happening across the country or worldwide. Try to take learnings from their experiences and accordingly see what best we can do to bring about the change. Continuous process improvement mindset contrary to the belief that GPR is a quick fix. Business process re-engineering is not a quick fix. And this would not, once it happens, once a new system, a better governed system is in place, that is not the end of it. There is always a scope of improvement. Continuous performance measurement. Right from the beginning of this discussion, we've been talking about quality. Quality would always be in terms of measures, and it has to be measured. You always have to have SLAs defined. You have to have the record that is maintained to prove and show that this quality is being monitored and measured and it's being achieved. Change management. So all these steps would actually ensure that your process re-engineering is successful. Thank you.
Okay.